My name is Stephanie Cohane, and I am the supervisor of the Clean and Affordable Energy Unit at the Connecticut Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, also known as PURA. The purpose of this short explainer video is to provide context for what components of a customer's electric utility bill are set through a utility's distribution rate case proceeding versus other rate components on customer bills that may change on an annual or biannual basis. I'm going to walk through various components and line item charges included on the electric bills of Eversource Energy and the United Illuminating Company, or UI, customers. First, let's start with screenshot examples of Eversource and UI residential customer bills. Currently, for both Eversource and UI, the bill is divided up into two main categories: electric supply and delivery. The supply charge is based on the cost to produce electricity at power plants and is a volumetric charge, meaning that the total cost is dependent upon customers' usage. This charge is set based on the market price of electricity, and the rate changes January 1st and July 1st of each year. Now let's begin to unpack what charges are included in electric utility customers' delivery portion of their bills. As you can see highlighted on this slide, through a distribution rate case proceeding, the electric utility will seek to change two rate components over what is called a multi-year rate plan, which essentially means that the rate may change based on the revenue requirement for each rate year, which is approved by PURA in the distribution rate case proceeding. The volumetric distribution charge is set based on the utility's approved revenue requirement for system-related expenses and investments. The revenue requirement is then allocated to each of the different residential, commercial, and industrial customer classes to determine a volumetric rate. There is also a fixed monthly customer charge that for residential, non-electric heating customers is set based on the utility's expenses associated with metering, billing, service connections, and the provision of customer service. In addition to distribution rate case proceedings, the electric utilities seek to reconcile net expenses through various rate components that appear as separate line items on customer bills. PURA conducts an annual investigation to examine the prudency of Eversource's and UI's proposed annual reconciliations through what is called a Rate Adjustment Mechanism proceeding, or RAM for short. The RAM components are changed in May of each year, with a potential second adjustment to occur in September based on the conclusion of PURA's annual review. On this slide, I will briefly walk through at a high level the rate components included in the annual RAM proceeding for Eversource and UI respectively. So first, the revenue decoupling mechanism. Each year through the RAM proceeding, the approved annual revenue requirement from the utility's most recent rate case is compared to the actual distribution revenue collected over the same time period, thereby reconciling any under or over recovery through this rate mechanism. The transition adjustment clause recovers a portion of costs for the investments in high voltage transmission system that carries electricity across state lines. Utility investments in transmission are regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC. Eversource customer bills also include line items for electric system improvements expenses, as well as a competitive transition assessment. This charge originated during restructuring of the electric utility industry when the state's vertically integrated utilities were required to sell off their generation assets. More recently, though, the CTA may result in a net credit to customers. Both Eversource and UI bills currently include a line item charge referred to as the Combined Public Benefits Charge. This is comprised of the System Benefits Charge, which includes a portion of uncollectibles and other expenses associated with the financial and medical hardship protections provided to eligible residential customers. In addition, the Combined Public Benefits Charge includes costs to fund the utility-administered statewide energy efficiency plan, also known as a conservation and load management plan. This conservation adjustment mechanism, or CAM, is determined in its own annual proceeding outside of RAM and is ultimately dependent on the budget of the Conservation and Load Management Plan as approved by the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. In addition, both Eversource and UI customer bills include a charge that captures net expenses or credits associated with various public policy programs authorized by the Connecticut General Assembly. This is formally called the Non-Bypassable Federally Mandated Congestion Charge, though the lengthy title does not fully reflect the types of costs that currently flow through this rate component that is included in the RAM annual reconciliation proceeding. For example, through this NBFMCC for short, Eversource and UI recover net expenses associated with the following listed on the slide, among others. So first, power purchase agreements or PPAs with Millstone Nuclear Energy Power Plant, as well as the Seabrook Station Nuclear Power Plant, as well as other long-term contracts between electric utilities and the clean and renewable energy generators. The low and zero emission renewable energy credit programs, also known as LREC and ZREC for short, for non-residential customers, as well as the successor program, the Non-Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program, is included in the NBFMCC, as are any costs associated with the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program for residential and non-residential customers. The Virtual Net Metering Program for non-residential customers is captured, as well as net metering costs for residential customers installing solar photovoltaics, as well as the successor tariff program called the Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program, are included within the NBFMCC. And last, at least on this list, compliance with the state's renewable portfolio standards. In October of 2019, PURA established its framework for an equitable modern grid that identified 11 separate priority dockets to investigate and implement grid modernization initiatives based on a set of 4 overarching objectives. While some of these investigations are still underway, this slide summarizes the topics where PURA has established a program or otherwise issued a final decision as part of the Equitable Modern Grid framework. So first, launched in January of 2022, the Energy Storage Solutions Program established a 9-year statewide electric storage program with upfront and performance-based incentives available for all residential, commercial, and industrial customers. The cost associated with this program will be recovered under the NBFMCC rate component and reconciled annually as part of the Rate Adjustment Mechanism or RAM proceeding. Next, the Innovative Energy Solutions Program aims to accelerate innovation across the electric grid by creating a supportive ecosystem between private companies, the state's electric utilities, and other key stakeholders in an effort to provide equitable benefits for all customers and to advance the state's decarbonization goals. The Innovative Energy Solutions Program will launch in January of 2023 with the program capped for the first year, and costs will be recovered through the NBFMCC rate and reconciled annually as part of the Rate Adjustment Mechanism or RAM proceeding. Next, also launched in January of 2022, the Connecticut Electric Vehicle Charging Program established a 9-year statewide program to support the installation of level 2 and direct current fast charging electric vehicle charging infrastructure for light-duty vehicles across residential and non-residential market segments. The costs associated with this program will be incorporated into each electric utility's distribution rate case. And lastly on this slide, as part of the Equitable Modern Grid framework, in June 2021, PURA directed Eversource to offer an optional tariff rate for small business customers to help control their energy expenditures and promote energy efficiency and renewable energy program participation. Eversource is required to report on the authorized revenue requirement compared to actual revenue for these optional rates as part of the annual RAM proceeding. In summary, this video highlighted the differences in rate components determined through a rate case proceeding versus an annual rate adjustment mechanism proceeding or RAM proceeding. If you're interested, though, in a more detailed overview of each component of the Eversource and UI electric utility bills, check out PURA's other Understanding Your Bill videos available on our YouTube channel. Finally, while this video referenced the language included on existing electric utility bills, it is important to note that Pure recently directed Eversource and UI to undertake a significant electric bill redesign for changes included in customers' monthly bills to be easier to read, understand, and more transparent, thereby enabling customers to take greater control of their electricity costs. So look out for improvements to the layout of your electric utility bill in the coming months.